Hey, I am Erica Carlson, a real estate agent with BRIX Real Estate, and thank you so much for joining me. If you are thinking about purchasing a home now or down the future, I think you're really going to find a lot of good content here today regarding the home priority checklist, as you can see on my screen, which I'll leave up there the whole time. If you choose to work with me as your agent, I always try to give people a copy of this, and if not, I have the Smart Home Buyer, which you can download on my website, which I will link below. There's no strings attached. I won't even necessarily, I won't know that you're downloading a PDF copy. And sometimes I have some hard copies I can give out. So this information is so important because a lot of times what people are doing is searching and searching online, and they're doing what we call the shotgun approach to shopping for a house, which means they're not necessarily getting pre-approved, so they don't know their true budget. They don't know what type of loan they're going to get, which then may impact what type of property you can even buy. And there's multiple examples of that I won't get into. And then we have more of what we call the surgical approach. And this is a part of that, not making impulsive decisions, not just giving it kind of like a 2-second thought. We really don't mean to be cruel, but like people will give more thought to like what they're going to have for dinner, what kind of jeans they're going to wear than sometimes like their next property, or they're kind of falling into it. And we know that people then have a lot of regret towards that decision because they maybe didn't have the right counsel. They didn't have the right tools. So what I can give today to you just by watching this video is like looking at these priorities and like trying to figure it out together. So first of all, just getting like a basic copy of this with your partner is going to be a great starting point, and I would recommend not necessarily doing this together. Though once you both do this, we call it this fight starter. So then you have to really come to a conclusion, and you can see it right there on my screen that you're supposed to narrow it down from these top 5 and get it to your top 2. Because not everything can be a priority. Another way that I like to say this is that we all want the perfect house for the perfect price at the perfect location. So I'm like taking my little saying and I'm like expanding it to 5, right? Because we're going to narrow it down more. So we all know what price means. Let's talk about these 5 things. We all know what size and layout and footprint could kind of like all be kind of jumbled together. Like some people do have a strong preference for it's got to be this or it's got to be that. And then condition, which we mean, you know, what does move-in ready mean to you? Does that matter? Some of us are actively looking for a property that isn't in great condition so that we can build some equity. So where are you on that continuum of condition? What does that mean to you? Now, I think the neighborhood and location is a little confusing. So just to clarify, when I'm saying location, I mean like, do you want to live on the West Metro? Do you want to live in St. Paul, downtown, you know, that component of location versus neighborhood could be more like is it a corner lot or a busy road or something like that. So I just have like a simple version of the same thing in front of me. So you're going to just narrow that down 1 through 5, which one's the most important, and like really get into it. And you cannot repeat that same number twice. So you can't put price and size as both number ones. It's 1 through 5. Really do the homework for yourself. Absolutely do not recommend skipping this step. And then once you've decided, you know, let's say, you know, there's just no wiggle room on price, which is normal for most of us, but this is how we go a little bit deeper with that conversation. So for example, if I found you the perfect house in the perfect location, but you said your budget was $350 and I said that house is going to be $360, would you buy it? If it was the perfect house in the perfect location and you were like, well, yeah, I'll go up another $10,000, then maybe price doesn't matter as much to you as you thought it did. So that's not my way of like trying to get you to up your budget. It's just about, again, going back to that priority list, that maybe price isn't number 1 for you because you realized if I could find you the perfect house in the perfect location, you would spend a little bit more money. So like keep playing out those questions with yourself. Like, that is how you get to the details of like what you're actually shopping for. And if you ask a real estate agent, like in a room full of 30 agents, you know, how many people have seen somebody buy a house that they said to you when they first met you, I do not want a townhouse. I do not want a split level. I do not want a Rambler. or I have to have central air conditioning, and then they buy a house with window air conditioning. Why does that happen? It's not because people don't know themselves. It's not because they're not telling the truth to their agent. It's that they didn't do this list. So when they're just like listing off all these things to their agent of like what they want, it's just that we don't know where the priority of that thing is. So then it goes back to, they said central AC was one of their top 3 things they wanted. I heard them say that. But when the house was perfect and it was in the best budget and everything else about it was fantastic, now the central air, by the way, not my preference, but that was something they could give up because everything else matched. And so this conversation of like what is super important to you is super important to me. The last thing I want to share with you that could be really helpful is we have a lot of people tell us they want their forever house. And I get that sentiment. There's like a point in your life where it's like, I don't want to move anymore. I don't want to do this again. I've moved X amount of times. Like, this is where I want to be for a long time. And I will 100% agree with you that you need to see yourself. And I cannot emphasize this enough. You should actually not be buying a house if you can't see yourself there for 3 to 5 years. Like, ideally, longer the better. If you can't say minimally 2 years, please save your money and go ahead and rent. We do not want you locked up in a mortgage or a house you cannot sell one day because you were just doing it for the short term, right? So we need to see a little bit more of a long term. So if your life is a little unsteady, like you're not sure where your job is going to be, you might get married, there may be a kid on the way, or just something like that's going to really determine a change in your life, then I would hold off on moving to a house, actual physical house with a mortgage. But my final thought is, when you say that forever home thing, have you ever in your life said that you want a forever car? Probably not. Was the house or the car that you bought when you were 16 or 20 or whatever age you were when you bought your first car, did you say, this car, it needs to be, a BMW, and it needs to be a sedan, and it needs to be this price? And they're like, I'm not going to buy a car if I can't find that. And the answer is probably no, right? You probably got something that you had for a year or two, something that was temporary, that was in the right budget, and it was a car and it got you from A to B. And I don't, just going to throw this out there, just something to like question your thinking a little bit when you start saying forever home. How about, like, even though a car has a completely different function from a house, you didn't do that with a car. You did not go to the rent-a-car place and rent a car because you couldn't find that car at that moment when you were 18, 19 years old. I don't even think you settled at that moment in your life. That's what you could afford. That's what you could do. And it wasn't your dream car. You may still not drive your dream car, correct? So you didn't go rent a car because you couldn't buy that particular car. There were probably multiple cars along the journey of whatever age you are as you're watching this video that got you to the car you're in today, just as just something that we all can like relate to a little bit more, because we don't all buy houses, we don't all buy cars either, but I'm just trying to find like a similarity. And you didn't give up, you didn't throw in the towel. So my whole point is, maybe if you get pre-approved for a certain budget and you're kind of disappointed, like you saw yourself in a certain price point in a certain neighborhood at this point in your life, and you get that hard news that maybe like you're not going to be qualified for that particular property, I'm not necessarily suggesting you still rent. I'm not saying this to be salesy. I'm saying it's a step in the ladder of life, that you're going to maybe start with a condo or a townhouse or a smaller home, maybe in a less ideal location for yourself. And maybe that is a place for you to build equity. And you live there for 2 to 5 years, and then you sell it and you move into something bigger because you're going to take the equity versus renting and renting and renting. So it's just about questioning your thinking a little bit about the part of the process, just to get you thinking a little bit bigger. If you would like to talk about the priorities more and how, myself or my lender partner can help you with these attributes that we're talking about, I'd love to be a resource for you. And I greatly appreciate that you're joining me on this video. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns about anything real estate related. And I'd love to, like I said, love to connect with you. So thank you again for joining me, and I hope you're doing well. Thanks.